All right, Starbucks, Howard Schultz, back in February, I might point out, said of Donald Trump that we have a president who is creating an episodic chaos every single day. That is no doubt affecting consumer behavior and consumer sentiment. But for some of the other developments that were occurring around that time and certainly since, not a peep out of him on the Berkeley protest or the town hall screamers or let's say comedians who feature a president with his head cut off. All of that gets a pass. All of that seemingly fine. From Schultz, nothing. CampusReform.org media director Cabot Phillips, Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman, Independent Women's Forum fellow Julian Melcher. Julian, what do you make of that? Now, to be fair to Mr. Schultz, some of these other later developments were just that, later post-February developments, but not all. At the time he made those remarks, and Business Insider picked them up, you know, there had been a lot of demonstrations, including on Inauguration Day and rallies since, that seemed to spread the violent thing around here. But what do you make of it?
Well, to be fair, he was talking about economic chaos, less so about the chaos that's happening in the streets. But even then, if you look at what's happening with...
I don't know if that's so
well,
obvious.
I mean, if you read the comments in broader context, it's pretty clear that that's what he's talking about. But that said, that's still a silly thing to say, because if you look at the economic chaos that we've endured, that's largely because of Obama administration overregulation. And I think throughout the election, we saw a tendency for the media to vilify Trump supporters, to take those one case in point examples and say that this is what all Republican voters look like. And we're definitely not seeing that standard being applied when people are violent in opposition to Trump.
But, you know, you can hit a point, Cabot, where it gets so bad that they can't help but not notice, right? I mean, in the Kathy Griffin case with the Trump head thing and all, even diehard liberals have to say, all right, well, this is a little over the top. But how do you compare what Schultz is saying about the chaos guy being Donald Trump and maybe the chaos from some of these antics on the left?
Look, of course, Schultz has the right to say whatever he wants to his employees, but he's missing how hypocritical and how out of touch the left has become with comments like this. Look around America. Who are the people perpetuating chaos and violence? It's the left rioting and lighting things on fire in the streets. It's on college level. It's the left that's using violence and chaos to keep conservatives away from their campuses. And like you said, it's the left who has their comedians holding up the severed head of the President of the United States. And so they like to label everyone else as chaotic and as using violence, when in reality, they're the worst perpetrators. And comments like this are just setting the left back because they're highlighting the hypocrisy of their cause.
All right, Andrew Feldman, I do remember a fellow named Jeb Bush referring to Donald Trump as the chaos candidate, and he would be a chaos president. So both sides have blamed the president for being that type of individual that would rough things up and maybe make a mockery of stuff. So I guess what I'm asking you is how this is played going forward, knowing what we know now and some of the demonstrations, the protests, some that turned very violent, that a pox on both parties' houses. Is that safe to say?
Look, I think that's important, Neil, to remember. Let's put this in context. Well, first of all, as the sole Democrat on this show right now, let me make it clear that what Kathy Griffin did was inappropriate, was not acceptable. She's come out and apologized, and she has asked for that photo to be taken down.
I don't know. The apology almost seemed like a hostage tape.
Look,
didn't it?
no one should be defending what she did. But here's the issue. We need to remember that Donald Trump is creating chaos, right? He is creating chaos and fear among what's going on in our country. What is our standing in the world? What is our, country coming to in dialogue? And that is creating, chaos and frustration and fear among Americans. And look, I am frustrated that we're talking about this today, Neil, because what's going on today, we're pulling out of a major Paris Accord, and we're talking about Kathy Griffin and Howard Schultz. We're talking about a budget. We're talking about a budget here that's $10 billion from education. So I think we need to be talking about the real issues here, Neil. And the problem is that
they're in the eye of the beholder. You're
it.
upset about if we junk out of this accord and all. But Jillian, one of the things I think is chaos also can be in the eye of the beholder. If you're an investor and you've seen the market wealth increase by $2 trillion, that's chaos you can like, right?
That might be. I mean, and when we're looking at Berkeley, I think that's an important one to bring up, particularly when we're talking about comedians. You know, we've seen a lot of this college activism, and looking at what Berkeley's chancellor said, that our campus is under siege, talking with local law enforcement about how there are outsiders coming onto campus and disrupting. And we've seen those campus controversies revolve around comedians. Just the other week, a screening of Can We Take a Joke About Offensive Comedy. But I think this is kind of a great case in point, because what we saw here is Kathy Griffin made an offensive joke. It wasn't very funny, but it's being widely condemned. And I'd like to see liberal activists pass the mic and let it be condemned.
It is being widely condemned.
But it's being widely condemned and not lightly condemned. But here's the issue, Neil.
Yeah.
We have to remember, no one's talking about this. When President Obama was president, okay, people went around and put Hitler mustaches on them. There were signs all around the country and parts saying, "Get that N-word out of the White House." I mean, this happens, right?
Well,
people are frustrated.
There might have been
People
cases
are
like
allowed
that, but I
to
got
have
to
the
tell you,
first.
this is now in its own cottage industry
Because
league
we have
here,
a
right?
president who gets up every morning and tweets. This is a live reality
Fine,
program.
but I would not
here.
sort of
And this,
minimize. I wouldn't minimize some of the antics that have gone on here. But having said that,
violence
Cabot,
is never okay. Violence is never okay.
I hear it. But Cabot, one of the things I'm looking at when I see all of these developments is that the two sides are off the charts hating each other, and so much so that I often wonder whether it's even possible. I was reading a lot of stuff on the centennial of John Kennedy, how he would work with the other side with him. Fast forward Ronald Reagan, who tried to imitate a lot of the things that JFK did. In a different sense, but work with Democrats and all. I don't see that even remotely possible today in this environment where Democrats call the present occupant in the White House illegitimate, and Republicans have given up even trying to work with Democrats. So I'm worried about the residual effect of all of this. What do you make of it?
What has dialogue become? Dialogue has become, you know, your guest is complaining about there not being people talking about the issues. Whenever people bring up the issues, if the left disagrees with them, they shout them down. They call them names. They say, you're racist, you're a bigot, you're hateful.
What do you mean by that?
No matter what they say. And so I think a lot of Republicans and conservatives as a whole are afraid to bring up the issues because they're tired of just being called
we're willing
all
to
these
have
ridiculous
debates on the
names.
issues.
And there's no, look at the riots in the streets. There's not a debate on issues. There's a shutting down of free speech.
But people are allowed to express their opinion because Donald Trump wants to take $23 million off health care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're allowed to express their frustration. I condemn the violence.
What does that expression look like, though, in America today? It's
violence.
violence.
It's when you've got a chancellor building an escape hatch so that he can get out because his staff is so terrified of protesters at Berkeley. I think that's not a climate that's conducive to free speech, and that's something that the left needs to take accountability for. I mean, if you're looking at what's going on in New York City right now, leading up to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, you see the left romanticizing a terrorist. That's going to be honored as their guest of honor during the parade.
Well, the bottom line is I think everyone just needs to bring it down a notch and hopefully find a way to work it.
Neil.
All right. Guys, I want to thank you all very